Yo people, hope you're all doing well and welcome to a new video. With the release of patch 6.51, we now have the ability to obtain the final stage of the Endwalker crafting and gathering relics, called the Splendorous tools. These relics are of course the best in slot tool that you can get for your crafters, and so now will be a good time to get started on them if you haven't already done so. This video will be focused on the crafter tools, and I will most likely cover the gathering tools in a future video. I'll be giving a quick overview on what you will need to do to get started with these relics, and I'll also provide some tips on how you can speed up the process with the first two stages. So in order to get started, you will need to have completed the Endwalker main scenario quest up to the end of 6.0. You need to have completed the Crystalline Mean quest, which can be picked up in the Crystarium from Catalyst, and you also need to have unlocked the Boutique of Splendors by speaking to Mawen in Yulmore. Once you have done this, you can start the quest An Original Improvement, which can be picked up in the Crystarium by Chora Zoe. Once you have completed this quest, you will be given a coffer which can be opened to receive the first step of your Splendorous tool for any designated class. You can now begin the Splendorous tool quest line with the quest A Dedicated Tool. If you have no idea on how relic quests work, then let me quickly explain. In order to complete the quest, you will need to hand in a certain amount of components. You can obtain these components from Quinana by handing in the collectible item that you've crafted. The amount of components that you receive per hand in is determined by the quality of the item that you hand in. You can see the different collectability brackets for each item if you hover over them in the trading menu. As we want to do the first two stages of the relic as soon as possible, or as quick as possible, whilst also using the least amount of materials, we want to be hitting the max tier possible for each craft, which gives 3 components as opposed to 1. If you open up the crafting log and go to Special Recipes, Side Quest and Splendorous Tools, we can see what materials are required for each craft. For the most time efficient method, you will want to use high quality materials for these collectible crafts, as they will massively boost your ability to maximize the quality rating. However, as far as I'm aware, pre-crafted materials can only be used on steps 2, 3 and 4. Step 1 is pretty easy anyway. I will provide some macros for steps 1 to 4, however do bear in mind that these macros will only work if you have the high quality pre-crafted materials, hence why they are super short. Again, remember we are thinking of the most time and cost efficient method. With every recipe, one of the materials will be obtainable from Quinana by trading in white scripts. These materials always start with select. I would highly suggest that you obtain these white scripts yourself, as it is very cost efficient to do so. In regards to the best hand-in item for white scripts, I would say Rarefied Draughts if you have Alchemist leveled, as they require the least amount of materials per craft. If you don't have Alchemist leveled, then just check which other white script recipe you can hand in that doesn't cost a lot to make. If you have a lot of gil however and want to speed up the process, then you can just buy these select materials from the market board, but do bear in mind that they are quite expensive. Once you have completed the first 4 steps, you will be done with the first 2 stages of the relic and are ready for the last stage. The final stage in a relic, as with the other stages, have 2 steps. Now the big difference here is that these are expert recipes. Expert recipes are designed to be difficult content for crafters, and so that means it is pretty much impossible to make a macro that will consistently hit the highest tier of quality rating for every single craft, at least currently anyway. When we get better gear in the later patches, then obviously this is going to change. However, as of now, as it's current content, this is the case. The good thing now though is that there are 3 collectability ratings for the last 2 steps. You can now get 1, 2 or 3 components, as opposed to the previous stages where you could only get 1 or 3. The reason this is the case now is because of how hard it is to hit the highest tier if you are new to expert recipe crafting. The only way to consistently hit the highest tier of collectability rating for every single craft is to manually craft each recipe. There are a few decent expert recipe guides out there if you wanted to manually craft these steps, which is actually the most time efficient method, as less crafts are required and also less materials. This is also a good time to mention that for these expert recipe crafts, you will need to obtain and apply Soul of the Crafter for the crafters that you wish to complete the last stages on. This essentially gives you a nice buff and also enables you to use 2 skills, which are Careful Observation and Heart and Soul, which massively boost your chance of succeeding a craft. To use these skills, you also will need to have the crafter's delineation, where one of these will be used every time you use either of the two skills. So just have a bunch of these in your inventory. You can purchase these from any white script vendor in the 3 main cities, and it is under the level 50 miscellaneous option. You can also purchase the soul of the crafters from any white script vendor and then trade them with Alderan in the foundation for the specific job soul crystal that you want. Another important thing to mention for the last 2 steps is that you will need to have food and drink. The best ones to use right now would be the Jingar Biryani and the Cunning Craftsman's Draw, both of which boost CP. So going back to the last 2 steps in a relic, I'm actually manually crafted these recipes for my alchemist and culinarian, and honestly it didn't really take much time. However, personally I do enjoy expert recipes, so for me it wasn't really an issue. I do understand the advantages of using a macro, being that it allows you to be more AFK, and so I tried my best to create one which allows me to at least hit the first tier of collectability, and also allows me to use every skill within the macro without running out of CP. I'll share this macro in the link in the description, and it can be used for both step 5 and also step 6. However, it's important to bear in mind that macros will work differently for every expert recipe that you craft due to the RNG of the material conditions within each step of the craft. This means that for some crafts you might only hit tier 1, whereas other crafts you might hit tier 2, and maybe on a rare occasion you will hit tier 3. You may also find that sometimes the craft won't finish, but you will have some durability and some CP left. In these instances, it's best to just use a basic synthesis or careful synthesis depending on how much CP you have left to finish the craft. Another thing to bear in mind is that I created this macro with the current best in slot indicator set, which is fully pentamelded, and so if you don't have the fully pentamelded set, this macro will most likely not work for you. Last thing to mention here is that I am not sure what other macros people are using. This is just one that I created based on previous expert recipes, content that I've done, including resplendent tools. This means that there may be other macros out there that achieve the same results as mine but are maybe a lot shorter. If so, please feel free to share in the comments. So once all the crafts are completed and you have finished step 5 and step 6, you can now receive your completed Endwalker crafted relic. The effects are pretty cool on these tools, but most importantly, the stats are a huge boost from the previous step. So congratulations. I hope this video helped you in some ways, and I hope that you all managed to succeed in obtaining your relics with the least amount of pain possible. If you enjoyed this video or it helped in any way, then please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more content. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.